Penguin Random House Audio presents Lethal Prey by John Sandford. Read for you by Robert Petkoff. Author's Note. As with most novels, this is a work of fiction. In this case, all but one of the characters are completely fictitious. The exception is the attorney Earl Grey, who appears in the final pages of this work. Grey is an actual Twin Cities defense attorney, and for many years a man of much interest to local reporters, among whom I was once one. He has graciously agreed to defend our killer. 1. Back in the day, 2003. 9 o'clock. A dazzling moon outside the window. A shrill whistle for a werewolf. Amanda Fisk stood by the door, listening, teeth bared. There was no doubt about it. The little bitch was getting it on with Timothy. She had tracked Timothy from his apartment, his ex had gotten the house, across St. Paul and downtown, right to B. She'd seen the blonde open the door, and her arms going up around Timothy's neck. They disappeared back toward the stairway. She'd given them some time and followed, using her own key to get in the building. Now, with her mind clear and hard as a diamond, Fisk walked down to the cafeteria and through to the executive dining room. She felt as though she had a hand in her back pushing her along. She got a knife from the serving cart, and as she was walking out, noticed the box of kitchen gloves. She took two, pulled them on, and continued back to her small office. As she walked, she got a whiff of buttered popcorn? Was there somebody else in the building? Somebody she didn't know about? She didn't think so, but she did a swift recon, looking for light, movement, sound. Nothing. She went back to her office, smelled the popcorn again. Couldn't find the source, but it seemed to be lingering around an unoccupied copy room. Didn't actually worry her, but it seemed curious. She continued on. She had no plan, but then, as a law school graduate, she understood both the merits of meticulous planning and the merits of spontaneity. This was time for the latter. That was demonstrated by the serendipitous discovery of the non-slip latex gloves. In her office, she locked the door, sat in her office chair in the semi-dark, and tested the point of the knife. As expected, the knife was dull. No matter. She had the time. The ledge under the windowsill was rough red brick, and, whetting rapidly and with anger, she groomed the table knife to a fine, murderous point. And she calculated. The lovebirds would not be leaving together. Timothy Carlson had arrived in his Porsche 911, and the bitch had her Subaru in the parking lot. When the knife was ready, Fisk walked back to the VP's outer office, where the pair had gone to use the soft leather couch. She waited 2 spaces down, inside an unlocked conference room, the door cracked open just enough to see. The anger clawed at her throat, and she struggled to control her breathing. Timothy didn't know it yet, but she was already planning the wedding. They'd been dating for a year, and an idiot blonde named Doris wasn't going to sidetrack her plans. There in the conference room, she didn't have to wait long. With Timothy, unfortunately, you never had to wait long. And Timothy, laughing, possibly a bit abashed as he should be, left first, checked his fly, said goodbye through the open doorway one last time. He walked along the dark corridor to the stairs, down the stairs, and out. Doris Grandfelt stepped out 2 or 3 minutes later, peered nearsightedly around, and then barefoot and bare-assed, carrying her underpants, skirt, shoes, a shoulder bag, and what appeared to be a handful of Kleenex, scurried down the hallway to the ladies' room. Fisk followed, her senses tuned to any possible interference or interruption, but the building, except for the two of them and the scent of buttered popcorn, was empty. The knife was light in her hand. ready. She stopped outside the restroom, kicked off her shoes, listening, then pulled open the door and peeked. Grandfelt was in one of the toilet stalls. Fisk stepped inside, eased the door shut, then tiptoed silently across the tacky cold tile to one side of the booths. Perhaps there was a change in air pressure, or perhaps the prospective victim simply had excellent hearing, but Grandfelt blurted, "Hello? Someone there?" Fisk stood unmoving, and Grandfelt listened, then continued whatever she was doing in the stall. The toilet flushed, and after a minute Grandfelt pulled the door open, stepped out, fully dressed, and walked to the line of sinks that faced the booths. Not quite perfect for a murder, but good enough. When Grandfelt reached for the soap dispenser, Fisk stepped out quickly, coming up from behind. Grandfelt's eyes snapped up to the mirror, too late. Fisk stuck the knife in the other woman's back, striking hard, the blade penetrating past the spine and into the heart. Grandfelt recoiled, bent, shrieked once and turned, and Fisk stabbed her again and again and again, and the blue eyes were looking up at her, and she stabbed her and stabbed her eyes and throat. She wasn't quite sure how long she was there, but whenever it was that she came back to the world, Grandfelt was not only dead, she was a mess. How did her blouse get ripped open? Who tore off the lacy black bra? Fisk had no memory of it, but it must have been her. And she had blood on her, all over her, blood almost up to her elbows, and covering her blouse, jacket, and slacks. She listened, heard nothing. If someone came, she still had the knife, and now, she noticed, she was bleeding from a cut on her hand. How that had happened, she didn't know. Here she was with a dead body on her hands. It felt like a risk, but not a large one, and had a feeling to it. She could run the table here. She stepped outside the restroom and into her shoes, looked around. Her purse was still in her office. She went that way to get it, realized she was still carrying the knife, and when she got her purse, fumbled it inside and slung the purse over her arm. She walked back down to the cafeteria, dug around, and found a box of black plastic garbage bags in a cabinet and a pack of brown paper towels. She carried them to the restroom. On the way, she noticed for the first time a feeling of wetness on her arms and chest and stomach. Grandfelt's blood. That had to be dealt with, but not yet. Back at the restroom, in her bare feet again, she set the purse aside and went to work. Grandfelt, not a large woman, she jammed into 2 overlapping garbage bags. Fisk spent another 5 minutes scrubbing up the blood on the restroom floor. Probably didn't get it all, but if there was a tiny speck here or there, the janitors would get it and never know. She shoved the bloody paper towels into the bags with Grandfelt, took a minute to wash her own hands and arms, cleared off a slash of blood on her left cheek. Her clothes were saturated with blood, but it was less visible than it might be. She was wearing her work clothes, a dark blue jacket and dark blue slacks over a pale blue blouse. The blood was evident on the blouse, but not so much on her jacket and slacks, especially not in dim light. And she could button the jacket. That was all good. She buttoned the jacket, checked her hair, rinsed the blood out of the sink, took a last look around, dragged the bags to the door, listened. All clear. She got her purse, put her shoes back on, and dragged the bags down the dimly lit hallway to the elevator, gripping Grandfelt's arms through the plastic. She took the load to the first floor, then to the back door. She pushed the bags through the door to the top of the steps, let the door close behind her, hurried out to the street where she'd left her car. She drove it around to the back door, picked up the garbage bags, heavy, but not too heavy, staggered out to the car, and
Sample complete. Ready to continue?